Hello and welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Paul Markle, and I am more than pleased to be here. We've done a lot this last 7 days. A lot of stuff's been going on, so we want to get right into it. But before we do, we want to give the kid the opportunity to say hello to you. Kid, say hello to the audience.
Hello. I'm doing well today. I got up, went to the gym pretty early, took my little brother with me. He's been accompanying me to the gym lately, so I am proud of him for that. And I've actually, before we get into the main part, I want to let Paul answer a question here. And it's something that I've had a lot of people ask because I monitor the social media and all that stuff. So I've heard all of you guys asking this, and we're paying attention. I wasn't ignoring you, but it's not really a question that I can answer. It'd be better if he addressed the question. So we've had a lot of people ask, what does Paul have to offer that Glenn Beck and Michael Savage and Rush Limbaugh do not? Because we're basically along the same line as them, but what else do we have to offer?
Okay, and thank you, Jared. I think that the question is not so much, what don't they have? It's kind of like, well, why should I listen to this guy? Why should I listen to this guy when I'm already listening to Beck? I'm already listening to Savage. I'm already listening to Rush. So, and it sounds like Paul is echoing, some of the same things that they say. Well, and that is true because, let's be honest. I'm in my mid 40s, and I really grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio. I mean, if I had discovered Rush when I was in my early 20s, and I listened to Beck, and I've listened to Michael Savage and what have you, and I appreciate everything they do and everything they say. And the American public really owes just those three men right there. The American public owe a debt of gratitude to those three individuals because what they have done is they've brought the argument or the discussion to the forefront of Americans' minds. And, for instance, when I started listening to Rush Limbaugh, and this is probably the same for thousands or hundreds of thousands of other people, they said, you know what, I've felt that same way. I feel the exact same way that he does, but I've never been able to put it into words, or I've never been able to articulate my argument. And what Savage has done, what Beck does, what Rush does, is they give you the opportunity or the avenue to articulate that argument, and they also let you know that you're not the only one out there. Now, what we do here at Student of the Gun, and what we've always strived to do ever since we started producing official Student of the Gun material, whether it's radio or television, is come to it not just from a hypothetical standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, from a standpoint of experience. Now, when I talk about training, when I talk about employment of arms, whether it's a shotgun or a rifle or a pistol or a machine gun or what have you, I'm talking about that because I've done it. Because I've been there, because I've carried a gun for a living my entire adult life, because I've been in situations that were high stress, potential life and death situations. And when I offer an opinion about, people, and I get this all the time. Actually, somebody just asked me recently, and this is a good segue. They said, I was listening to a podcast radio show by and I didn't hear the show myself, so I'm going to have to just go with the person's word, but Adam Carolla. And I don't have anything against Carolla. And matter of fact, I applaud Carolla because he's one of the few people in the Hollywood limelight that doesn't toe the party line. Most of your Hollywood comedians are TV people. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah. A lot of them have came out and said that going against that particular view that Hollywood has is it ruins their career.
Oh, it's career suicide, right? You've got actors, when you come out in Hollywood, if you espouse conservative political views, if you don't toe the left-wing Democrat Party, if you don't read from the playbook, you don't get invited to the parties. And not only don't you get invited to the parties, but you don't get hired. You don't get jobs. And Carolla, to his great credit, he sticks it to him. He doesn't just, and he sticks it to everybody, not just liberals, but Republicans and conservatives too. He's not afraid to speak his mind. Well, What I was told was that on one of his recent shows, he was talking about personal defense or home defense and what people should use, and how he believed that everyone should have a pump action shotgun, but they should load the first round in the chamber as a blank, the next round coming up in the magazine as like non-lethal or rock salt, and then lethal rounds after that. And the person in question, they asked me, well, what do you think about that? And I had an opinion about that, but my opinion is based upon real world application of firearms and tactics. It's not based on the hypothetical or what seems to be on the face good. And advice like that seems to, on the face of it, be reasonable. And that's how people, essentially, I don't know if I could say fall for it, but that's why they attach, they fall for that idea, or they glom onto that idea, because in their mind, it sounds like that is the reasonable thing to do, or the safe thing to do, and that's kind of like, well, I have a gun, but I don't ever chamber a round until I know I'm going to use it, that kind of a thing. And why should you listen to Paul Markel versus Adam Carolla versus whoever is giving you military or police or tactics advice, is because my entire adult life I've been doing this, whether as a police officer, as a United States Marine, as a professional bodyguard, as a small arms and tactics instructor. So to answer your question, and in a long form manner, why should you listen to what I have to say, or what we say here on the show? Well, it's because it's based on 3 going on 4 decades of practical real world experience, not just the reasonable man theory.
That was a good explanation, and I don't think I could have said it any better, because obviously I am not Paul. I am his son, and hopefully I can carry that on throughout my life as well. And now let's pay some homage to our sponsors, since we didn't get to do that before I did that.
Okay, yeah. Don't forget about our good buddies. So we couldn't do this without our sponsors, and it's a partnership. We speak to the masses, and the things that we use, we believe in. We don't just take money from people just because. And you guys don't realize it, but there have been several companies that have approached us. They're like, and we're just like, well, we're really not interested, because we don't believe that their product is actually a practical or a valuable product, and so we won't let them sponsor. But Crossbreed Holsters absolutely is one of those companies that we don't just believe in them. We use their products every single day.
I've got mine on right now.
Jared's got his on right now. And no, I'm gonna give you a 100% honesty. Jared bought me a new chair, and it's got one of those high backs that's curved. And as I'm sitting in the chair recording this right now, it pushes against me. So what I've got is I have one pistol on, but my Crossbreed is sitting on the table next to me. So I can put my hand on it, and I can reach it in less than 3 seconds. And if I had to jump up and run because the house is on fire, I do have another gun on me.
And that's one of those things for those guys. We got a lot of questions about ankle carry. Sitting down in a seated position where he's at right now would be a good time for that. But that's beside the point. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and don't forget our buddies at Kel-Tec. Kel-Tec makes a lot of really cool, different, innovative products. And the one thing about Kel-Tec that I think a lot of people don't appreciate is because they're not playing somebody else's game. They're able to do things that other manufacturers would never even not only not consider, but would be afraid to produce. And Kel-Tec, for their entire history, has produced unusual guns and unusual designs. And it's the reason they're able to do that, and the reason they do it, is because they're not a slave to somebody else's design. They're not like a major corporate stockholder company where, well, you have to don't get too fancy because it'll scare people. Kel-Tec has never been afraid to try something new or do something different or work on a different design. I mean, the evidence is right there. The KSG, the RFB, the PMR30, all of those things, and the SU-16s, all of those guns are items that would have never come to come into being if it was left up to traditional firearms makers. And there's nothing wrong with traditional firearms makers, but let's face it, most of them operate under the very, very safe formula. Like, well, if we can't sell 1 million of those, we're not even going to think about making them. And Kel-Tec, on the other hand, like them or not, love them or hate them, Kel-Tec is constantly pushing the envelope. And that's one of the things that we really appreciate about those guys.
And while we're on the subject real quick, can I let them in on a little insider information? That would be great. Okay. Coming from my heart of hearts, student of the gun, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dad, but I believe that we as a team don't do this for the money. We do it to bring you guys information, experience, motivation, and we are just very fortunate that we can collect money to pay our bills along the way.
Well, no, you hit the nail on the head there as I bumped my microphone with my hand. But no, you hit the nail on the head. If you out there in the world, especially if you're a young person, and we know that there are some young people listening to us, and you haven't made a career decision yet, what you need to do is find what you love. Find something that you're absolutely passionate about. And if you can find that and then get someone to pay you to do that thing, you're golden. And that's the big, that really is a big stumbling block, because people, you're sitting out there, if you're 16 years old and you're like, dude, I love to play Call of Duty. I love to play Halo. That's what I'm passionate about. Well, hey, fantastic. If you can find a company to pay you to play Halo, then drive on. That's the tough thing. Now, some people are just content to sit in a chair and drink beer and watch TV, and there aren't very many companies out there that will pay you to do that. But if you are able to find a career field, and don't be frustrated because you're 22 years old or 23 or even 30, 29, 30, and haven't settled on your career field yet. A guy told me, kind of a mentor 10, 15 years ago, he said, don't sweat that you don't have your career field solidified. He said, most adult men don't find their true calling or their lifelong career field until they're in their 30s. And that's natural. It's a natural progression. And as we sit here right now in front of these microphones, what we're doing today is really a natural progression of what I've been doing for 20 to 30 years. It's just I started writing professionally in 1993. And so I've been at that 20 years. And then, of course, that led me to teaching, and it led me to, doing the television show, which led to doing this. And who knows what we're going to be doing in a month or a year from now, but it's going to be probably along the same vein. So my advice to you guys, if you're doing a job that you don't necessarily like, or enjoy, do it, pay the bills, because you're better off being that kind of a person than, taking Comrade Barry's free money. And there is no free money. It comes from somebody. But the reason we're here, the reason we're doing this is because we are absolutely 100% passionate about it. We're not just doing this because guns currently are the cool thing to talk about. It's like I was country before country was cool. I was a gun guy before being a gun guy was hip or popular, or it kind of amazes me. We've only been doing this show for how long, Jared? 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah, this is 34, episode 34.
This is episode 34. So we started in the middle of March, I guess it was. And just watching the new shows popping up on iTunes, since we've started, there's all these, this is and that's and the other thing. And hey, we wish you good luck, but we like to think that since we started doing Student of the Gun, we were doing Student of the Gun, and when we started it, 3-4 years ago or so, we came with the concept. People were like, well, it's not a hunting show. So we don't understand. Because the formula 3, 4, 5 years ago for gun TV was a hunting show. That is what you did. There was no show dedicated around education for firearms. Because in the traditional mind, that wasn't what people wanted. Well, you'll never get people to tune in every week for an educational show. That won't work. You guys need to focus on, and we actually had people like, well, if you're not going to be a hunting show, then what are you going to do? as if that was the only thing that we could possibly do. And we still are a bit of an anomaly in the world, because human beings like to label you. They like to put you in very specific categories so it's easy for them to understand. And whether to our detriment or our credit, we've always been the show or the outlet that people just can't quite, put in a category.
We've got a little bit of everything.
So I guess the category is student. Alex, I'll take student of the gun for 100. That is the category. And we're glad that you, my voice cracks, apparently I'm going through second puberty, but as you guys sit out there listening to the sound of my voice, that you've decided to come along with us for this wild ride that we're calling Student of the Gun.
All right, real quick, and then we're going to get into the actual subjects of the show. We've got a kind of a cool email from a 15-year-old listener, and I just wanted to acknowledge him and tell him hi. So his name is Andrew Gaddis, I believe, if I pronounced that correctly. And just want to let you know that we got your email and we're working on that. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, Andrew's out there, or he's up there in Indiana, and he's a high school student, and he says he listens to Student of the Gun, and I guess he gets the show, the TV show, too. So, hey, Andrew, how you doing? Glad that you're out there listening to us. Now, speaking of education and speaking of training, you know that we think that every gun owner should take formal training. You should always want to. That's the thing that I find strange, is people that view training as some type of a burden. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, that's intellectually lazy. Get your butt into a school and quit making excuses. And we're going to make it even easier for some of you, because we're doing a tactical response training giveaway. We're doing it all the way through December. So we did our first winner in October has already been picked. We've got one coming up in November. After November 1st, we're going to pick another one. And what that winner gets is a 2-day tuition, free paid 2-day tuition at any tactical response 2-day class. All you have to do to be eligible, as we've said many, many times before, but hey, this might be your first time listening, is go to studentofthegun.com. And over on the right-hand side, just sign up for our electronic newsletter. It's a weekly broadcast, and we let you know once a week, hey, what's going on, what's new, what's cool. This is the topic of the day. And everybody who is in our active subscriber list, when we get in there, and we just use a random number generator. However many people are in there, we use a random number generator, and we find people in the active subscriber list. And if you are an active subscriber, you're eligible. And you're not only eligible to win the training, you're eligible to win holsters, to win guns, to win flashlights, to win optics. Hint, hint, we have an optics giveaway coming up here in December. So you want to stick with us. Now, and we're hip to you guys. Are we not hip to them, Jared?
We are very hip to you guys.
Yeah, we're hip to you sneaky guys out there. You sneaky guys that think that I'll get online and I'll subscribe and I'll let it float for 24 hours, and then I'll go back in and unsubscribe so that I don't have to get their dumb newsletter, but I'll still win their free stuff. Jared, does that work?
No, you want to know why? Because the subscription agency that we use automatically removes you from our list. So that makes it easy for me, and it makes it easy for our other winners that could be picked.
And hey, we've got folks that have been with us for a long time, since the very beginning. We've got people that have been with us since the very beginning. They're dedicated students of the gun. They're out there, they're listening, and it would be bullcrap for somebody to come in and subscribe for 24 hours, unsubscribe, and then win a trip or win a gun or win something like that. So we're not going to let that happen. Now, Jared, my sneaky son over there, what he did, as you guys may know, if you're following us, if you're a Student of the Gun follower on Facebook or social media or whatever, you might know that here this last week before we recorded this, I took the family, minus Jared, because Jared had to work, and I took the younger kids, and we drove over to Florida, to Zephyr Hills, to visit my grandfather, Charles McClellan. And my grandfather turned 90 years old this last week. And so a lot of the family from all across the country, from California and from Michigan and Ohio and, of course, Mississippi, we converged on Little Zephyr Hills, Florida, to celebrate my grandfather's birthday. And it went very, very well. But Jared was left back here. He was left in the office to kind of tend to things. And while I was gone, Mr. Sneaky over there went ahead and dropped a Dad's Out of Town special.
Who told you? I want to know which one of you guys told him.
You forget I'm on the mailing list, too.
I'll remember to exclude your address next time.
So what Jared did while Dad was away is he did a special offer for our subscribers, and he sent out an e-blast or a
newsletter,
a broadcast, and said, "Hey, while Dad's out of town, I'm going to give everybody 20% off of the Grad Pack. If you want to get on it now."
I figured it was only fair since I got left behind.
Well, I'm back in town now, so if you didn't get in on that one. But that's just an example of why you want to be part of the newsletter and why you actually want to send folks, when you sign up for the Student of the Gun newsletter, use an email address that you actually check. Because when we send you that email, that congratulations, you're a winner, if it goes into your spam folder or into that one email address that you never ever check, you're not going to know about it. And Jared talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it really is not fair to everybody out there that is chomping at the bit and they're waiting to find out who the winner of the KSG shotgun is, or the training giveaway, or the holster, or heck, we gave away the Chris Vector carbine package, which is like, it's crazy. It's like $2,500 kit that we gave away last year. It's not fair for everybody waiting for you to have your name sitting in there, or the email that says congratulations, you're a winner, sitting in your spam box. So if I can do anything, I would suggest that you actually check your email once in a while, or at least once a day. All right, let's get into our latest. Last week we got into another Colorado update, and we're going to do it again today. All right, this Colorado update comes from our good buddies at AmmoLand.com. Now, AmmoLand reposted this story, and as you know, because you are a good student of the gun, but John Morse and Angela Giron were kicked out. The citizens of Colorado, they successfully recalled them, and they went, Morse and Giron went into that kicking and screaming, and they said, we're not giving up, and screw you gun owners, and blah, blah, blah. And they had this huge Save Our Slimy Senators campaign, or whatever they were calling it. And they got a ton of money from Nanny Bloomberg, because Nanny Bloomberg up there in New York has decided that it is not good enough to enslave the people of New York. He needs to enslave the whole country. And what he does is he gives money to all these sycophant politicians that want to strip you of your God-given rights. And so Nanny Bloomberg funneled a whole ton of money into the Save More, Save Giron campaigns, and they still lost. So, and we love that. We absolutely love that. Well, the folks up in Colorado aren't done yet, and congratulations to you guys. We're proud of you. But they're not done. They're going to kick out Evie Hudak, the one who told the rape victim that statistics didn't support her position of wanting to be armed. Yeah, you heard it right, and if you were with us last week, you heard the whole story. But this is coming up, and they're getting the signatures right now. The people up there in Colorado are securing the signatures to force a recall election for old Evie Hudak, and they're scared. The liberals in Colorado are scared because they know, for whatever reason, they kind of woke up and are like, wow, why are these people so pissed? We just, we're trying to turn them into slaves. We thought that's what they wanted. Peace, love, dope. Well, their old Governor Lickenbottom up there, Comrade Barry's good buddy, Lickenbottom, who never met a liberal gun control legislation that he didn't like. Lickenbottom was all over the gun control thing. He was all over those. And Well, he lost his little buddy John Morse, and he lost his buddy Angela Giron, and he's getting ready to lose his buddy Evie Hudak. And what he has said is he came out and he told this is funny, and I'll read this to you guys from the story. And this is a quote from Lickenbottom. It says, Colorado is a state that people like to be themselves and solve their own problems. He's basically told Bloomberg that he doesn't want him to get involved in this Save Evie Hudak campaign, to stay out of it, which is just hilarious because, how stupid do you think we are? How stupid does Hickenlooper think that the American people and the people of Colorado are? He was perfectly happy. They were happy to have Nanny Bloomberg's money when they were trying to save Morse and Giron. Yeah, they had no problem taking their money. And, they had their hands out. They're like, yeah, we'll take your money. Well, then when they found out that Nanny Bloomberg just made it worse, they're like, oh, hey, Nanny, you can funnel us some money under the table, but please don't come out in public and say anything. It's kind of like Obama going to a district and supporting a candidate and then that district getting smacked or, shut down. So don't think for a minute that Lickenbottom, he's one of Obama's buddies. He's a freaking lapdog for the current usurper, for Barry Soetoro. He's not. He doesn't become all of the sudden some kind of a staunch conservative, constitutionalist. He just got his freaking hand slapped by the loss of Giron and Morse, and he's getting ready. It's going to happen again when he loses Hudak, and so he's going to come out and, like all politicians do, he's going to come out and pretend that this whole thing about, oh, Colorado people like to solve their own problems and don't want other people coming in. Really? That's funny. Because, hey, Jared, didn't we talk about when Morse and Giron, how the hippies out on the West Coast, or like Seattle and Washington, were telling had this Save Morse, Save Giron campaign, and they didn't have a problem with that. But all of a sudden, Lickenbottom's trying to tell us that, oh, we don't need outside interference in our affairs. And he tried to say that the outside interference also was the NRA. And we don't need the NRA getting involved in our affairs. Sounds to me like a liberal politician that screwed over the public, and now he's going to have to pay for it, and he's getting nervous. So, from Lickenbottom to Nanny Bloomberg, I need you to just be quiet. And we thought you'd appreciate the Colorado Rocky Mountain High update there. Now, moving along, did we give you I don't think we gave him a vagination report last week, did we, Jared?
I don't think we had time.
Yeah, we got all involved in other things and we didn't do a vagination report. Well, we've got one for you this week. And you guys, all you Facebook fans have been fantastic. Ever since we announced the vagination report, we've gotten all kinds of messages, or you guys will say, hey, did you see this story? And you'll drop it into Facebook, or you'll say, hey, I've got a vagination report for you guys. And it's fantastic, and we really appreciate it. Well, this one comes from the National Football League, and the National Football League that I used to care about 10, 12, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I guess. I cared about NFL football, and I actually followed it. I am completely done. I know this is going to hurt Russia's feelings, but I don't think Russia listens to me. But I'm completely done, and I'm finished with the NFL. The NFL has gone; they've gone full vag, they've gone full vagination. And not only was they've been doing this for a long time. The NFL has become this reflection of political correct society. They become a bunch of little. I don't know who got to them. But somebody convinced the commissioner and all of his buddies that they needed to be politically correct. And the NFL right now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. Within 5 years is going to be irrelevant.
Can I tell a real quick story?
Yes.
You know how Dad's always telling you guys that there's more important matters to deal with before games are watched or played or whatever you want to do. What really, I guess, stands out to me is that he used to sit in front of the TV, watch Monday Night Football every single week. He'd be yelling at the TV like they could hear him. I don't know why. Maybe they could. But that's not the point. The point is that he actually changed his lifestyle. Now he doesn't sit down in front of the TV and watch NFL every single Monday. He's got more important matters to do. And that just hit me when I was leaving the gym the other day. I don't know why. It just did. But I just want to let you guys know that he just doesn't talk about doing things. He actually does them.
Well, thank you, son. But and Jared's right. You know what? If you like the NFL, fantastic. You know, if you like the Major League Baseball, fantastic. There's nothing wrong with liking it. What the problem that I have right now is that it is 2013 and the United States of America is crumbling. It's literally it's crumbling. It's falling apart. And one of the reasons it's falling apart is because people who should be paying attention, people whose job it is because they're citizens that should be paying attention, that should be actively involved in preserving the republic, aren't. They're distracted by other garbage. And some of that other garbage is the NFL and Major League Baseball and you name it. They're distracted by that because that's the easy way out. The easy way out is to fall into your fantasy football league and not realize that the people up in Washington are mortgaging your grandchildren into the poorhouse. They're passing legislation to ensure that you, as a citizen, your children, and most likely your grandchildren, will never be solvent, that you will always be a tax slave. And that's happening, and it's happening right before our very eyes. We have the NSA who's just randomly reading and going through emails just because they can. And you're like, oh, well, I don't care. That's not the point whether you care or not. The point is it's against the law and it's unconstitutional. But you're more content to play your little fantasy game and let the world crumble around you. And when we get to the NFL story, the reason that it came before I don't pay attention to the NFL, and the reason it came to our attention is because the word guns is in the title, and it says NFL rule bans off-duty cops from bringing guns into First Energy Stadium, and this is in Cleveland. And it is Cleveland, right? Yeah, it's a Browns stadium. Well, shame on you, Browns, and shame on you, NFL. And what kind of a message are you sending? And they're like, they essentially said, well, they're going to exempt on-duty personnel and who else? TSA.
Oh, because they take the same training and schooling as cops do.
Well, yeah. Well, so if you are a uniform Fed or a uniform state, it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the point of concealed carry? Is it because you're going out looking for trouble, or is it because sometimes trouble just is there?
Well, that depends on who you ask.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But okay, in the real world, the whole reason you carry a concealed handgun is not because you're going out and you're looking for trouble, because you understand that sometimes, despite your best efforts, that trouble will find you. And that is the whole point of it. And by banning off-duty police officers who can legally carry, and we're not talking about to view or meet the president or what have you, or the queen or the king. We're talking about going to a football game in Cleveland, Ohio, which isn't as bad as it used to be. I'll give them that. Cleveland in the 70s was bad. It was bad. And even in the 80s, but they've kind of cleaned up, downtown Cleveland. They've done a good job. But this whole off-duty police officers, somehow, so if you're not wearing a blue polyester uniform at that moment in time, that you can't be trusted in possession of a firearm. It's insulting, it's ridiculous, and it's part of this politically correct feel-goodism that does nothing to keep people safe, but does everything to give this false image that we really care. If you really, I don't know who's the commissioner now of the NFL, and I really don't care because obviously they're a eunuch. If it is a man, is it a man? Whatever. The commissioner of the NFL is obviously a eunuch if they think that this is a good idea. And, they've already for a long time ago decided that citizens couldn't be trusted to protect themselves, because disarming citizens and disarming off-duty police officers, that's obviously how you prevent crime and how you stop terrorism. Disarm the good guys, and then the bad guys will see how reasonable you are, and they won't kill you. Right, Jared?
Correct.
Yeah, correct. It's bullcrap. It's insulting. If you are a man in blue or brown or gray or whatever polyester uniform your agency currently issues you, do you not think that that's insulting? That how is it that you can protect and serve every day, 5 days a week, and then you put your street clothes on, and now you're somehow, the NFL views you as this incompetent boob that can't be trusted to carry a gun. You can't be in public and be safe with a gun. So thumbs down, NFL. I don't even understand. I don't understand it. If you guys can figure it out, you let me know. I'm all done with them, and I have been for a long time. All right, moving right along. Jared's giving me the moving along dad thing right there. We've got a new one for you. Hey, congratulations for everyone who's listening to episode 34 of Student of the Gun, because we've got a new update for you. We have a douche nozzle of the week report.
And for those of you that don't know what a douche nozzle is, here I'm going to give you the definition.
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo, yes. It is an individual who acts and looks like an utter donkey. Someone who transcends common insults to the point that simply calling him a donkey or a douchebag will no longer do. Much more offensive than simply calling someone a douchebag. End quote.
End quote. So and where did you get that quote from?
Urban Dictionary.
The Urban Dictionary of douche nozzle. And the douche nozzle report. Now, you guys, for whatever reason, I've spent my entire adult life really not ever thinking about the National Park Service. It's not just that's not a group of people that normally comes up in everyday conversation that I deal with. But for whatever reason, and this is kind of weird, you might ask yourself this. You're like, why all of a sudden am I constantly hearing about the National Park Service? Ask yourself that. I mean, when you were growing up, every week, did you hear or read stories about the National Park Service? No. But all of a sudden here, these turds are in the limelight, and it could be, when you go into a restaurant and an employee doesn't treat you well, the first that, you might think, oh, this employee is a turd. Well, they may be a turd, but you need to think about it. If an employee treats you well, if they do their job very well, it's because they have a good manager. They have good leadership. The way an employee or the way the private behaves is based upon what the lieutenant and the sergeant, what they've taught them. Good privates, good employees they come from good leadership. And when you hear about Park Service employees issuing tickets to preschool teachers for not getting a permit or a license to use the park for a picnic, when you hear about stuff like that, when you hear about National Park Service employees essentially kidnapping or holding prisoner a bunch of elderly tourists in Yellowstone National Park and loading them up on buses, and when you hear Park Service people doing that, and the whole barricading the monuments and not letting people pull off at the scenic pull off so they can look at the Mount Rushmore, you hear about that and you think, wow, these and we've had fans that are like, well, that individual needs to be dealt with, or that Park Service employee or that particular guy, they need to be brought up on charges or they need to be disciplined. Well, yeah, and I'd be with you if it was one single incident. If the Park Service had a spotless record and all of a sudden one guy, because, hey, let's face it, there are bad apples in every bucket. There are cops that do bad things. There are everywhere you go, you'll run into a bad apple that got in. Okay, fantastic. So if that turkey up there in Alaska who ticketed the preschool teacher, that was the only time I ever heard about a Park Service employee doing something stupid, I would have thought, okay, that person is an individual turd and they need to discipline and they need to get rid of him. Well, what we're finding, what we've discovered, is it's coming from the top. That because our douche nozzle of the week is Jonathan B. Jarvis. Jonathan B. Jarvis is the director of the National Park Service.
He's not the suit that Iron Man wears.
Oh, it's not Jarvis. Jarvis is not Iron Man's. He's not Iron Man's computer. That's for you young kids out there. Jared gave you a little young hipster lingity there. But Jonathan B. Jarvis. Well, apparently there are still some congressmen in Washington that have some stones, and they demanded that this turd come in front of them and explain to them why he felt the need to close down, to barricade all of these open-air memorials and parks that had never, ever, ever been closed before. As a matter of fact, if you're a smart guy, what you probably know is during the Clinton administration, when there was a shutdown, they didn't close any of these memorials. Well, he had his talking points, and he had his prepared statement for them. And what he told them was, and hold on to your collective hats, that the reason he had to shut down the open-air memorials on the mall, which is in Washington, D.C., it's not a place that you shop, it's the National Mall, during the government shutdown was because of terrorism. That's right. Saying that closing them was the only way to protect them in a post-9/11 world. Now, look, this turd obviously is working towards his pension. And I know that that Comrade Barry and his ilk up there gave him these talking points. They're like, here's the deal, Jarvis. This is when you go in front of Congress, this is what you're going to tell them. And if they bring up, well, during the 95, 96 government shutdowns, they never closed the malls. This is your excuse. Oh, this is a post 9/11 world. So according to the water carrier for the administration, the director of the National Park Services, Jonathan B. Jarvis. Congratulations, Jonathan. If you're out there, hey, if you're a friend of Jonathan, give him a high five for us. Tell him congratulations because he is the student of the gun douche nozzle of the week for closing down and barricading and using. I thought they were out of money. They were out of money, supposedly, but they had plenty of money to pay people to print up signs, to rent barricades. How many tens of thousands of dollars of your tax money do they spend renting barricades to close these memorials? We're broke. We can't afford anything, but we can afford to go to Joe's barricade rental and rent, 10,000 barricades to close down the monuments. If you still believe, you guys don't because you're smart, but if you still have friends and family that believe that they had to close these things, that it wasn't just a way to punish the American citizens, I don't even know how you reach people like that. They're so naive and so intellectually dishonest. I don't know how you reach them. But in our minds here at Student of the Gun, when old Jonathan Jarvis there brings up terrorists, yeah, I think he's right. There were terrorists involved in these activities. And you know who the terrorists were? They're the employees that work for the National Park Service, the employees that told World War II veterans, you cannot visit your memorial, that told American citizens, you can't go up the steps to the Lincoln Monument, that told people out in Yellowstone National Park that you're not allowed to recreate in the national park. Those are the terrorists. So if you're looking for terrorists, they wear green uniforms and they work for the douche nozzle of the week, Jonathan Jarvis.
Hopefully there's a light at the end of this dark tunnel somewhere.
Oh, there is.
So speaking of darkness, what do we use in the dark on our pistols?
Lights.
No.
Flashlights?
Yes, but
excess
no.
sights?
There you go. You passed that test.
Excess nuclear sights, that's right.
Speaking of excess sites, they bring us our good guy of the week, and we're going to jump right into that real quick. Check out excesssites.com to see all the different sites that they have. We recommend them. I carry them on my Glock. Dad carries them on all his guns. Our student of the week this week is Wes Carlisle, and he wants to know about deer hunting with shotguns. He says, what factors do I need to consider when introducing kids to hunting using a shotgun for deer?
Excellent question. And I suppose since we're doing this in October, that it's very timely and appropriate as well. Well, that is a good question. And a lot of folks, especially if you live in the Northeast, out west, not so much, but in the Northeast, there are several states that will not allow you to hunt deer with a rifle. I believe Pennsylvania's in that list. I know Ohio is in that list. So what we want to do is we want to take a moment to talk about young people and shotguns. Well, number one, a shotgun is always going to be a relatively hard recoiling or hard kicking device. And people are like, well, I'll give them a 410. Yeah, you can do that. We don't really, the 410 is kind of it's kind of a half answer, quite frankly, because it is so small that the 410 is a poor shotgun as far as, using if you're going to use a full-sized gun, a long gun, a 410 is pretty anemic, I suppose you could say. And even a 410 slug is pretty anemic. But you're going to introduce a kid to a shotgun. Well, number one, you need to give them something that fits their body. If you take your 42-inch duck gun, and you hand it to an 8-year-old, and he has to lean backwards so he's almost falling on his butt to hold the thing up, it's not going to be fun for that kid. Now, kids want to please their parents. Most kids do. I mean, unless you have a kid that's like a rebel at age 7. But most young kids, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, they want to please you. And so when you hand them the shotgun, they'll do it. They'll do what you told them to do. But that's not really the point. The point is you don't want them to be doing it just so that they will please you. You don't want them to be doing it just to seek your approval. Because if that is the only reason they're shooting the shotgun or the rifle or the pistol or whatever, if the only reason they do it is to seek your approval, they're never going to really enjoy it. They're never going to appreciate it, and they're never going to want to do it on their own. And the point of introducing your kids to the shooting sports is to get them to a point where that is what they are individually passionate about, that they want to do it, that it's not that they just do it because you tell them that they have to, or, okay, it's time to go to the range, come with me. And they're like, okay, Dad, I'll go. I'd rather play Nintendo instead. I just dated myself there. But step number one, get a gun that fits your kid. Now, that is really the big asterisk or the conundrum is, well, quite frankly, most youth model shotguns should be classified as child abuse. As the model for 10, 15, 20, 30 years or more has been for gun companies to take a single shot 12 gauge or a single shot 20 gauge. They chop off some barrel, they chop off some stock, they make the gun shorter, they make the length of pull shorter, and they call it a youth model. Well, what they did is they just removed 1.5 pounds from the gun, but it recoils and it feels the exact same as a normal gun. And as you guys know, if you're experienced shooters, if you're talking about a breech loading shotgun, single shot or even a double shot shotgun, a double barrel, all of the recoil goes directly into the shooter's shoulder. There's nothing taken up by a gas system or recoil spring or anything like that. So it's very punishing. Giving a kid a 5-pound 20 gauge shotgun is brutal. The 9-year-old isn't going to enjoy it and what our good friends at the 4-H Shooting Sports, my buddies Fred and Doug and Jim, all those guys up there at the 4-H Shooting Sports organization. When I was at camp several years ago, they were sitting around the table and they were talking about this hillbilly Krieghoff. And I'm sitting over there and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? What in the world is a hillbilly Krieghoff? Well, what they had done is they had taken one of these youth model shotguns, one of these single shot youth model shotguns, the 20 gauges, and they'd taken the butt stock off. And if you guys know anything about a wooden butt stock on a single shot 20 gauge, you'll know that there's a big hollow space in there where they run the bolt through to screw it to the frame, to the receiver. And they filled that space with lead shot. And then they sealed it. Then they put a thick, cushiony rubber butt pad on the end of it. And it gave the gun about another pound or so, a little more than a pound of weight to absorb the recoil, and they put that nice cushiony pad on there. So when they had young kids, they had 9, 10-year-olds or even 11-year-olds that were slight of frame and they wanted to come out and shoot clays, they would let them use this gun. And the kids were loving it because it wasn't beating them up, and they wanted to do it more and more and more. And when I heard about that, when they explained to me what that was, I was like, wow, I've got, at the time, Paxton, my daughter, was, I think, 9. She was either 9 or 10, and Zachary, would have been 2 years younger. So I had one of those guns. I had one of those youth model guns, and I sent it off to my buddy Hans Vang out at Vang Comp Custom Shotguns. And what he did was something very, very similar. He put a Hogue, a nice thick Hogue cushion on the stock, and he backbored the shotgun barrel itself so that he actually put a compensator. He put a compensator out on the end of it. So the gun was very, very mild recoiling, even though it was a small, light gun. And the kids loved it. And they could crush clays with that thing. Off of a hand trap, the kids were just smashing clays, and they enjoyed it, and they wanted to do it more often. And that's what I would say. If you can get your kids out there with a shotgun in their hands, you're like, but we want to shoot deer, Paul. We want to shoot slugs at deer. Okay, I got you. But what you want is you want the kid holding on to this wooden and steel foreign object. You want them holding on to something that they have confidence in. And why would they have confidence in it? Well, they have confidence in it because they've spent a long time or a lot of time with it in their arms. Now, I can tell you from experience that when you are hunting an animal, you see the animal, it comes up, and you're like, whoa, there is the deer, the hog, the antelope, the whatever. You sight in on it, boom, you shoot that thing. And after it's over with, I've shot large recoiling rifles, and I said to myself, wow, after I examined the event, I'm like, I didn't even feel the recoil. I didn't even notice it. Well, the reason I didn't notice it was because the adrenaline was flowing, and I was so focused on shooting the animal itself that the recoil from that one individual shot really didn't bother me. And the reason that people are able to make those shots is because they're comfortable with the gear. It becomes a natural extension of them. If you want your kids to have success shooting a deer with a shotgun, the way not to do it is to give them a shotgun on November 1st. Okay, go fire 3 slugs out of this. You fire them, you understand what you're doing? All right, we're good. Let's go. No. What I would say is if you're going to give a kid a shotgun, that's the great thing about shotguns is they're so versatile. You can shoot slugs, you can shoot buckshot, you can shoot birdshot. Take the deer gun, whatever gun that you're going to have your kid use to hunt deer with, take it out with birdshot and shoot clays. And they're like, oh, it's not the same thing. Stop yourself. I understand. The kid's going to learn the gun. He's going to understand the gun. He's going to appreciate how that gun feels. So when he throws that gun up in his shoulder, puts that bead on or the sight or whatever it is on that deer at 35 yards, boom, that thing is smacked down dead. And he's not going to have that, this thing's going to hurt me. I'm afraid of it. That's the last thing you want. And just as a quick aside, I'm going to tell you guys out there, all you guys, you yahoos, and if you're still out there, putting 3-inch 12-gauge shells into a shotgun and having your kids or your mom or your wife or your girlfriend shoot them because it's funny, because it hurts them, you're a moron, and you need to stop doing that. It's not funny. It's not a joke. What it does, it makes people who are new shooters not want to shoot anymore. So if you know people, everybody knows that guy at the range or at the hunting club that likes to, sneak the high brass 3-inch shell in there. Oh, that's fine. You're a moron, and stop yourself. You get the kids out there. Now, if you can find the low recoiling slugs, I would recommend those for young shooters. And Remington makes them. I know Remington makes them. I think Winchester does, and Federal probably does as well. So look for those. And, you can, unless you're shooting a moose or an elk, a 20-gauge slug, if you put the 20-gauge slug where it needs to be in the deer, in the vitals, that deer's going down. It's going to go down. 20-gauge slug is a lot bigger than a 30-06 bullet, and a 30-06 bullet will take a deer down, or a 308 or 30-30 or what have you. For those of you who aren't, I'll give you guys a couple of really quick hints about what's going on in ammunition right now. If you're a deer hunter, if you're a guy who uses a 12-gauge shotgun to hunt deer up in Pennsylvania or Indiana or Ohio or wherever you happen to be, New York maybe, Winchester has a new product called a segmented slug. I call it the slug grenade, because what they've done is they've taken a standard Foster type slug, and before they load it into the shell itself, they put it in a press and they pre-score or pre-fragment it, kind of like a grenade. And it flies as one solid piece. It's a rifled slug, just like your normal Foster slug is. And you can fire it through a smoothbore. But once it hits the animal, or it hits something, fleshy, it goes in an inch or two, maybe 3 inches, and it breaks apart, and you have 3 solid chunks of lead that go out. I've killed hogs with it. Matter of fact, when I first heard about it, I'm like, that is a hog-killing slug right there. That is what we need. And I actually went up to my good buddy Bill Wilson's ranch in Texas as soon as I could get my hands on some of that new ammunition a year or so ago, and killed a hog with it, and it works fantastically. So if you're a 12-gauge slug hunter and you can find the Winchester segmented slugs, I would highly recommend them. Now, I don't know what the laws are in your state about using double-aught buck. I know some states have banned it or prohibited it. If you are in a state that does encourage or allow you to use buckshot from a shotgun to hunt deer or any kind of animal for that matter, Federal has a double-aught buckshot that is grouped in their what they call the flight control wad, and this stuff is magic. It delivers 8 double-aught buckshot pellets into a pattern about 5 inches at 20 yards, Jared, something like that. It's tremendous. It does a fantastic job. So if you're a double-aught buck hunter, if you're looking for a good double-aught buck load, I highly recommend the stuff from Federal. If you're looking for a slug, a 12-gauge slug, I recommend the Winchester segmented slug. And like I said, I know that Remington does do a reduced recoil 12-gauge and a reduced recoil 20-gauge slug. So let's face it, most of the stuff up in the Northeast, you're not going to be shooting deer at 287 yards. A long shot on a deer in the northern woods is 50 yards. So, well, folks, I hope that what you found this week, I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it educational, and I hope you found it enlightening. Now, remember, last week we talked about the Patriot Fire Team. Now, PatriotFireTeam.com is still in its fledgling state. Jared, in addition to doing all the thousands of other tasks that I give him every week, is working on that site right now. But you can go to PatriotFireTeam.com. And there's a little sign-up sheet, and you're like, well, why should I do that? Well, here's the deal. We are building a complete, dedicated Patriot Fire Team site, and we're going to have recommended reading and products and T-shirts and all that jazz, and it's in the works right now at this very moment. So if you go there and you're like, yeah, I'm down, I want to be part of that. As soon as we have the shirts available, as soon as we have all the other stuff available, we're going to send out an e-blast and say, hey, dudes, this is what it's at. This is where it's at. This is where you can get it. So if you have the opportunity, just go to PatriotFireTeam.com. It's easier for me to say than to do, or something like that, to do than to say, and check that out. Now, don't forget to check out Student of the Gun Television. Student of the Gun TV airs every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on Dish Channel 266. And as we told you last week, we are currently part of the Shentel HD cable lineup on Saturdays and Wednesday nights and Saturday nights. And that is in Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland. If you get the cable channel, you know about it. Now, don't forget, folks, you are a beginner once. Jared just gave me the finger. He gave me the hold-on finger.
Yeah, I almost forgot that if you're a student of the week, you need to email me your information, and your information consists of your address. We need a phone number for the FedEx tracking number. I guess they use FedEx, and they need a phone number to give. So I need your address, your phone number, your shirt size, and I believe that's it. And send it to Jared, that's JARRAD, at studentofthegun.com.
Okay, you heard the kid. So if you are the winner, and this week it is who? Wes Carlisle. So Wes, when you listen to this, make sure that you send an email to Jared at studentofthegun.com. Give him all your information, and we will get the good guy package out to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, till we're together again next week. It's easy for me to say. Do not forget, you're a beginner once, but you should be a student for life.